still a force. That fourth line was so amazing Saturday night. Ovi owns it to force Game 7, gets 14% of the vote as well. We were talking to Eric about touching the trophy and what was up with Winnipeg chanting, "Let's go Stamkos." Stamkos in 2015 made a prediction. If Vegas gets a team, they would have the best home record. So I don't know why they were chanting Stamkos. I figured it would be Vegas.
I know Steven Stamkos never forgets anything. It's amazing the fans remember he said that, because I don't remember him saying that.
I don't either. Maybe there's another reason, but they were chanting it. And then the guy who scores the goal to win the game for the Golden Knights Brian Reeves is a native of Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Ironic. And then touching the trophy, Eric, you haven't seen that before, have you?
We have. It happens every now and then. Go back to Pittsburgh when they lost to Detroit in 2008. I don't remember which way Sidney Crosby went. He either touched it or he did in the first year. Well, they got back the second year, he switched it, so he did touch it. In 2004, obviously I remember this very well, but Jarome Iginla did kind of what Vegas did last night. Not only did he touch it, he picked it up and carried it
hoisted it
into the room. So, that's what Jarome, whereas Dave Anderchuk didn't touch it at all. So, the superstition works only if it goes your way, right?
I don't know, man. I wouldn't touch it.
I wouldn't either, man.
I tell you, I avoided that like the plague. I remember when I was a kid in '94, Messier, he just stood there and he acted like that thing would have gave him rabies.
And it's funny, years later, if you're playing in a softball game, still don't step on the lines.
I still don't.
Right.
I still don't.
It's funny about Eglin touching the trophy yesterday. Fleury told him to do it.
Oh, there you go.
Because I'm pretty sure Crosby actually did touch it the year they won it in 2009. And I think Crosby's actually done it the last 2 years, too, because the last 3 times they won the conference championship, Crosby has touched it and Pittsburgh's went on to win it.
So they're going to stick with what works, yeah.
Right.
This for Eric. Bolts run in 2015. Stanley Cup Final seemed like a lot of game we were ahead, and we would go into prevent defense. This year it's different. It seems like we keep coming at you. I have to kind of disagree. I didn't think they kept coming at the Capitals on Saturday night. I thought they played it a little safe. And, that happens with a 3-0 lead.
It does. I think for the most part, throughout this postseason, they have continued to kind of go after teams a little bit. And really, that's kind of been their MO, not just when they're trying to protect leads, but their whole game. They're not taking risks. They're not doing those hope plays. They're not committing turnovers around the blue line, something we did see from this team in March that had a lot of people concerned.
Those cross-ice passes.
Yes, you don't see that as much. There's a better understanding and awareness to not make those mistakes. If the play's not there, dump it in, go get it, get your forecheck established. They're not trying to be cute like they were, and that, to me, that's the biggest thing, and that goes right in line with being able to keep the attack up a little bit, if you will.
And the other great thing, too, is, we were talking about this before, is Mikhail Sergachev. I mean, what a great job of keeping the puck in the zone for that game-winning goal by Alex Killorn. But it's one of those things where if you don't hear their names, it's usually a good thing. And I think, they've done a great job of not overplaying him, I think. And I think you mentioned this the other day, he's going to be playing 25 minutes in about 4 years.
In about 3 years, he's going to be a 23-minute defenseman. He's, I've been so impressed with the way he has played in this postseason for a 19-year-old who this time last year was playing in the Memorial Cup for Windsor. Now he's a step away from playing in the Stanley Cup Final. He's been so solid. He hasn't made mistakes. He hasn't taken risky plays, which is exactly what, he can be a high-risk, high-reward kind of guy, but he's tailed in a little bit. He's been very impressive, even in his own end.
And Eric, can you think of other defensemen who have the puck-handling ability, that crossover move that Sergachev has at 19 to be able to do that as a D-man?
What he can do, Jonathan Drouin is a magician with the puck, some of the stuff he can do, but Sergachev is the equivalent on the blue line. Because of what he can do. You were talking about ankle-breaking moves.
Yeah, man.
What he can do with the puck and have the confidence to do it, just a quick little shimmy, and he's gone, he's around, and he opens up so much space for himself to create plays. Once he really starts to figure out how to play in the NHL, that's going to be deadly for the Lightning's perspective.
It's funny that you say that, because that was one thing that, against the deal. And I said, well, you know what? There were some wow moments from Drouin. Remember the goal in overtime he scored? I think it was against Colorado. Yep. And I was just like, man, can Sergachev ever give us a wow moment? And there was one play, it was early this year, he came along the right board, he had the guy right on his side, and then he kind of spun around and shot the puck from near inside the blue line and scored. And I said, wow. And when you say wow, and you're like, this deal, check.
How about the goal he scored against Winnipeg this year?
Yeah.
Where he made one of those moves at the blue line, spun around in the middle of between the circles and turned on fire and scored.
I think that was the one I was talking about.
So if you can match wow moves as a defenseman against a little forward like Jonathan Drouin, okay, so you're ahead of the game then, and he's so defensively, you can't even compare the two. Obviously, one's a D-man, one's a forward, but Drouin doesn't play much defense.
He doesn't. But this is the best thing I love about Mikhail Sergachev, and just kind of getting to know him a little bit, and the stories you read about him when he came over from Russia and joined his billet family in Windsor. He is a sponge for knowledge. He never stops asking questions. He wants to learn every minute of every second of every day, and you can't teach anybody to do that. And his thirst for that knowledge shines in the way he plays. You talk to his defensive partners, he's always asking questions when they come back from the shift. What did I do? What can I do better here? It's amazing and how much he retains. This is the kid who basically taught himself English in 3 months. I mean, that ought to be enough to tell you about somebody's mindset right there.
Smart guy.
Smart guy and
intelligent, very intelligent.
And hardworking. He's such a hard worker. And at 19, he's not overwhelmed by the situation either.
No, and it's, Montreal fans are going to come to, I think, regret that trade.
Oh.
And I think Drouin's going to be a really good player. I think he's played out of position this year for the Canadians. If he ever gets in the right position, he's going to be a solid player. But D-men like this just don't come along.
I think that Jonathan that's better is Marchessault, and we'll see him for Vegas. Let's talk about Sergachev here with Walt. Walt the guard, how you doing, brother?
Hi, Walt.
Thanks for the call.
I think based on the era that Sergachev is playing in compared to the era that Coffey was in, I think Sergachev is ahead of the curve because of the way he can play the game. But Paul Coffey was just an unbelievable skater, surrounded by mega talented players for a number of years, whether it was Edmonton or Pittsburgh. We're certainly not going to see those point totals. We're not going to see him be as aggressive in terms of jumping down the play as Coffey was. But I think in terms of understanding how to play the game at this age, I think Sergachev is ahead of the curve with a lot of players.
It's hard to predict somebody's future, but you're talking about a guy could be a star in the league for 10, 15 years.
Yes.
If not more, because of how young he is. And because defensively, at times, you can age well. I mean, even Chara, who had a rough postseason, he had a really good regular season this year. So defensemen can have a way to change it. It's a lot different. I mean, Paul Coffey, I just remember how much ice he had to skate in front of him. Yes. It always seemed like nobody got to him. Sergachev doesn't have that much ice. But
wasn't anybody playing the 1-3-1 track?
No, definitely not. But you know what? I asked Kaylee Chelios, because who else better to ask? I thought, as far as keeping the puck in and the way that he plays with such poise, I said this early on, I thought he reminded me of a very young Nick Lidstrom. I know that's high praise, but you know what? I know, but you know what? He's that good. You know what I mean? He's that good, and at that age, offensively, you'd think he'd be good, but defensively, he's just as good.
And something he showed against Brian Boyle, this on the Simpson Air DA text line. One thing I love about Sergachev, he has a nice little edge, and he's not afraid to throw down. We saw that when Boyle challenged him. Erik Erlendsson, you can read him at lightninginsider.com. Good stuff up there. Anything you want to promote real quick before we get to Frank Caliendo next?
Yeah, just today's stories about how heading into tonight's game that Tampa's been on both sides of the history they're facing, and so we talked about the experience that comes into play a little bit. And anybody who signs up and uses the code WDAE gets $10 off a yearly subscription.
Boom, good deal. All right, Frank Caliendo, you love him. He's going to be appearing at Ruth Eckerd Hall. He's going to be here with us next.
That's going to wrap it up for us, guys. 620 WDAE until 3 o'clock today. Make sure you go to lightninginsider.com. Sign up. WDAE, get you $10 off. All right, I'll talk to you guys later on tonight. Go Bolts.